The Holy Gospel of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ according to Luke.
Glory to you, O Christ.
Now all the tax collectors and sinners were coming near to listen to Jesus, and the Pharisees and the scribes were grumbling and saying, "This fellow welcomes sinners and eats with them." So Jesus told them this parable. There was a man who had 2 sons. The younger of them said to his father, "Father, give me the share of the property that will belong to me." So he divided his property between them. A few days later, the younger son gathered all he had and traveled to a distant country, and there he squandered his property in dissolute living. When he had spent everything, a severe famine took place throughout the country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to one of the citizens of that country, who sent him to his fields to feed the pigs. He would gladly have filled himself with the pods that the pigs were eating, and no one gave him anything. But when he came to himself, he said, "How many of my father's hired hands have bread enough and to spare? But here I am dying of hunger. I will get up and go to my father, and I will say to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Treat me like one of your hired hands.' So he set off and went to his father. But while he was still far off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion. He ran and put his arms around him and kissed him. Then the son said to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son.' But the father said to his slaves, 'Quickly bring out a robe, the best one, and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet, and get the fatted calf and kill it. And let us eat and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found.' And they began to celebrate. Now his elder son was in the field, and when he came and approached the house, he heard music and dancing. He called one of the slaves and asked what was going on. He replied, 'Your brother has come, and your father has killed the fatted calf, because he has got him back safe and sound.' Then he became angry and refused to go in. His father came out and began to plead with him, but he answered his father, 'Listen, for all these years I have been working like a slave for you, and I have never disobeyed your command. Yet you have never given me even a young goat so that I might celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours came back, who has devoured your property and with prostitutes, you killed the fatted calf for him.' Then the father said to him, 'Son, you are always with me, and all that is mine is yours. But we had to celebrate and rejoice because this brother of yours was dead and has come to life. He was lost and has been found.'" The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Christ.
You may be seated. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Barry Randolph, and I'm the priest and pastor of Church of the Messiah, your sister church, on the east side of Detroit. We're part of a partnership between St. Paul's and Church of the Messiah called Justice and Change. And we all work towards justice and changing the world, standing up, being the people of God. So one of the things that I want to talk about is us being the people of God. And it is so fitting to me today that this gospel reading speaks of the prodigal son. And I want to bring this home just a little bit because I know we've been listening to this story for years of the father who has 2 sons, and his younger son decided he want to go off, get his inheritance, don't want to wait for his dad to die. He want his money, and he want to go out and have a good time. The father agrees, give his son the money. His son goes out, have a good time, spend all that money, had a good time, and wound up in the middle of a famine after he spent his money. Had to hire himself out to somebody feeding pigs. And it was so bad that he wanted to eat the food that the pigs ate. And he came to himself, like we do so many times. We sometimes create our own situation and problems, and then come to ourselves and say, whoa, I need to go home. I'm a child of God. I need to go back to my dad, and I need to ask for forgiveness. The son was so sorry for what he did, he figured, I'm not worthy to be my father's son. I'm going to ask to be one of his servants, and I am going to go back knowing I'm not worthy. He gets back home. On his way, his father, like a good parent, is waiting for his son. He sees his son coming, and he gets excited. And he calls his hired help, tells them they're about to have a feast, and he's going to celebrate his son coming to his senses. Now, of course, the man had two sons. Now, we always see where the son who took the inheritance, went out and had a good time, had a problem. But his other son also had a problem. The other son felt really kind of bad because he looked up and he would not celebrate his son, his brother returning, and didn't understand why his daddy was celebrating the son that did the wrong thing, and he was the son doing the right thing with his father. And he became so indignant, he refused to go into the party they were having for this son. And his father noticed that his other son went out and said, hey, son, what's up? And he stopped and said, Dad, I don't understand this. That son of yours took your money, went off to another country, spent it all on prostitutes, wine, had a good time, and then a famine come, he get in trouble, and he come crawling back. And you celebrate him. And yet and still, I've been with you all this time. I ain't caused you a moment's worth of trouble. And I don't get anything. But you celebrating this fool, and I don't get anything. I don't think that's right. And his dad said, son, you don't understand this. This brother of yours was lost, and now he's found. And he's coming home. You've been with me always. I celebrate that you don't have to learn that lesson. But yet and still, your brother, my son, who was lost, has come home, and that is a reason to celebrate. Daddy had to be daddy for both of his sons, who both had a problem. Both of them had a problem. We always look at that younger one having one, but that older one had one too. So I want to bring this home a little bit and talk about somebody else who had a problem with their brother. And that was me. I got 11 brothers and sisters and a twin brother. And I'm number 11 of 12 children. I have never caused my mother and father any problems. I was the straight A student in school, valedictorian, get the college, scholarship to college, do all what I'm supposed to do. But one of my brothers was the exact opposite of me. He always got in trouble, always went to jail, always got in trouble, and it drove me crazy. We were never close, ever. We were never close. We had a little bit of an age difference, but more than that, we had a personality difference. In 1998, God called me to be a priest. I had a burning bush experience, called me into the priesthood. I was thinking, this is what God wanted me to do. This is what I wanted to do. So, of course, I started the seminary process. In the meantime, I was a businessman at the time. And as I started going into seminary, I used to own a restaurant and a catering company. And one day in 1998, the end of 1998, I used to watch Oprah religiously, 4 o'clock every day, Channel 7. And there was an episode of the Oprah Winfrey Show that said, they had an argument, what was the difference between spirituality and religion? And I'm like, I know what that is. And she said, anybody that knows this, write to me and tell me what you think the difference is. Well, I wrote, not thinking anything of it. A month later, I get a call from the Oprah Winfrey Show. And they said, we want you to come on the Oprah Winfrey Show. We want to film a segment of Oprah. I don't know if y'all remember this. Back in '99, there was a segment called Remembering Spirit. And we want to put you on this segment called Remembering Spirit, which is the last 5 minutes of the Oprah Winfrey Show. And I was thinking, yes, I'm going to be famous. I'm going on the Oprah Show. Everybody going to know me. And I'm going into the priesthood. God has put all this stuff together. It is going to be amazing. They come to Detroit from Chicago, come to the church, do a segment, all is well. About a week before the show was to air, I get a call from the producer who says, Barry, have you ever been arrested? Arrested? I ain't never been arrested. I ain't never been in trouble my entire life. She said, we did a background check on you, and there's a warrant for your arrest at the Wayne County Jail. I'm like, lady, you lost your mind. I've never been in the Wayne County Jail. I've never done anything wrong. I could not believe it. I called my mother, and she said, call your sister, because your nephew, of course, is a Wayne County sheriff. I called my nephew, who's a Wayne County sheriff. I'm not used to this, so y'all forgive me. Maybe I just hold it. That'll be easier.
You're loud enough, it'll pick up, I think.
Oh, good. Okay. All right, good. All right, I'll let it hang. And so I called my nephew, and he was like, hold on. I am about to do the prisoner count. I'm about to go see all the prisoners. And he picked up his ledger. Sure enough, he looks, and Barry Randolph is on the ledger. He goes back to the jail where all the prisoners are, and there is my brother in prison in my name. Whole process in my name. And he came back and told me. I immediately called the producers and say, hey, it's not me, it's my brother. And they say, you got to prove that, because according to this, it's you. So I literally had to miss that episode of Oprah, go to court, be fingerprinted, had to get a police background check, this whole thing to prove it was not me. Sure enough, they proved our fingerprints didn't match, that was not me. But I'm thinking Oprah think I'm a criminal. And my episode ain't gonna come on TV all because of my brother. Now I go through the process and I become a priest. And it was so interesting, every time I went to my mother's house and I saw my brother, if he walked in the room, I walked out. Wherever he was, I didn't want to be nowhere near him because I could not believe, why did you steal my identity? Of all the people in the world, why would you use somebody you know? And couldn't you go get a stranger or somebody, but you used me? So my mother told me, she said, Barry, you can't be a priest and hate your brother. And I was kind of like, yes, I can. And she said, you're going to have to reconcile with your brother. And that was very difficult, very hard for me. Now, when I became the pastor of Church of the Messiah, we had 40 people. God gave me the plan to regrow the church, and we grew to a couple hundred people. Church got so big, if you didn't get to church by 12 o'clock, it was standing room in the back. And every Sunday, right after I would get through preaching, I took a Baptist tradition called opening the doors of the church. And that's where you open the doors of the church and you give anybody an opportunity to give their life to Christ. Well, one day I opened the doors of the church. Church jam-packed full. And I open it and say, anybody want to give their life to Jesus Christ, this is your time to come. And I watched my brother walk up that aisle and stand right in front of my face. And God spoke to me and said, what are you going to do? And I thought to myself, it's 4,000 churches in Detroit. Why couldn't you find another one than to come to the one where I'm the pastor? And in that moment, I forgave my brother. Because I did not see my thieving, crackhead, prison-bound brother. I saw a child of God walk in front of me saying, I want to give my life to Jesus Christ. And I could not stand in the way of that. And it made me think about the story of the prodigal son, of how when a person come back and they're repentant of what it is they have done, we don't have the right to stand in the way of salvation. Regardless of whoever do us wrong, regardless of whatever injustice we may think it may be, when they come and they're coming to God, my thing was, it went from my brother's problem, coming to God for forgiveness, to my problem. Standing before God, now asking for forgiveness for the hatred of my own brother. So we both hugged each other, forgave each other, and asked God for forgiveness. So I'm here to say the same way that father stood in the balance for both of his sons, one feeling justified, the other one knowing what he did wrong. The father understands both of his children got a problem. And sometimes the father works on reconciling both. And it reminded me that God was like, Barry, you need to reconcile too. Whatever unforgiveness you have, you may think that you are the victim and you were doing the right thing and you were done wrong. But anytime you hold unforgiveness against a person and they ask you for forgiveness, we don't have the right to hold it. The Bible says, judge not and ye shall not be judged. Forgive and ye shall be forgiven. Condemn not and you won't be condemned. God is saying by the same measure you withhold forgiveness or hold judgment, you're asking God to judge you on the same level that you're holding it against the other person. That's why I say sometimes forgiveness is also for you. Sometimes the forgiveness is for you. And it allows you to be free to say, I will not hold this against the other person. And the thing is that kind of let me know that I really forgave my brother. Because it's one thing to say it. But we went to my mother's house for Thanksgiving. And the first thing I did, I gave him a hug and I saw him. And that was the first time I saw him without the judgment being there. It was really, now I get to see my brother. And a few years ago, my brother passed. And I had the honor of doing his funeral as my brother and not just as somebody that I harbored this thing. And I am so grateful to God that I didn't hold that until his death, because I think that would have been worse. So I'm just saying, in this reading, in this gospel reading, as we think about it, think about God being in the stead. And God saying, my hands of forgiveness is out for all. My love and my justice is for all. When Jesus gave his life, it was for all. And that is for all. It is not up to us to determine who's worthy of it. All of us are actually unworthy of it. But he loved us so much so that he was like, I'm doing this because I'm going to make you worthy. And let me say this, when God called me, and I really had a burning bush experience, just like Moses, I had a burning bush experience, and I was talking to God in my living room, face down on my floor with the glory of God being in the room. And I said, Lord, I am not worthy to be in your presence. He said, don't ever say that again. I have made you worthy. You can't earn this. You have to accept it. You walk into it. You don't earn it. It is something that is given by God. And he is saying to all of us, you are worthy. You are valuable. You don't lose your value. And let me end with this. If I were to take, okay, bear with me because I'm not rich. So this is $20. Let's make it $100. Unless somebody want to give me a $100 bill for real. But if this is a $100 bill, and if I ball it up, what is it worth? If I take it and I throw it away, don't move, what is it worth? If I throw it away, what is it worth? If I step on it, what is it worth? If I take it and if I rip it, what is it worth? It does not lose its value because of what it's been through. It is the same way that if you were to take a new one, and if you were to take the stepped-on, rejected one, they both have the same value. You can take this one and go into Kroger, and they'll take it, or you can take this one and go into Kroger. They'll take it. The value does not diminish based on what it's been through. And that is the same way it is with Jesus Christ. Regardless of what you've been through, whether you've been rejected, torn, scorned, nobody can see your value. Jesus Christ sees your value. In the same way, you wouldn't leave that on the ground. Compared to that one, they both have the same value. He reached down for all of us, came down from heaven for all of us to be able to say, I see your value. I see your value. Live in your value. God is good.